Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
And welcome everybody to another Mark Bishop show. Beaut to have you. Thanks for coming along, and thanks for all the ringing the bells and reviewing the thing. I really appreciate that, because we're trying to build here, and I got some very interesting guests coming on board into the new year of 25, and I hope you have a great holiday season. This is probably my last before Christmas, but I had to get this guy on. He's so fascinating. Scott Edwards is his name. The show is like a box of chocolates. I often say that because you never know what you're going to get. And I'll take them all. As long as they're interesting and informative and make you laugh or smile, then I'm happy. I want them as guests on the show so you can spread that word as well. This particular chocolate, well, he owned a chain of comedy clubs for over 21 years. He produced TV, stage, and concert comedy events with the best, including Leno, as in Jay, Carvey, Seinfeld. That's Dana Carvey, I would imagine, Poundstone, Bob Saget, many more famous and not so famous comedians. You'd remember some of those. And in addition, a massive entrepreneur, hard worker, and a terrific business builder. He does it all. Scott R. Edwards. And I'm absolutely pleased as punch to have him on the show. G'day, Scott.
Hey, I made it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on the Mark Bishop show.
How you doing?
Woo,
How you doing?
I'm so excited to be here finally. You've had such amazing guests. You had Valerie talking about sex. That was exciting. And you had Jason talking about, photography and his big photo books and stuff. I mean, you get all kind. It's like a box of chocolates.
Maybe C's Candy might consider sponsoring this. You never know.
Exactly. This podcast has
that's the
everything.
Top shelf, right? That's top shelf. Okay, they're the top, right?
They're
Fairly
the best.
bad. I got to go
Our
bottom
people.
shelf like my vodka.
And ladies and gentlemen, be sure to share this and like this. And if you get a chance, bring in the family and friends, because they're going to enjoy Mark Bishop as much as we are right now, right? Yes.
Right, fabulous. Oh, hang on, let me do this thing here. All right, does that get your juices going a little bit?
Oh, I got to tell you, it makes me want to do the Trump dance.
Hey, you're coming out with a brand new show soon, are you not?
Yeah, I've been podcasting for a little over 6 years. Much
Right.
like you, Mark, I had a long life in show business, what I call in the fringe of show business. And I sat down and I wrote a book about it. It took me 2 years. And when I was done, my wife said, "No one's going to read your frickin' book." And I go, ah. And she goes, "You ought to do a podcast." Boom. I became a podcaster. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've got 4 different podcasts, lots of fun. And they're all audio podcasts, which I think is how you started, Mark. But,
well, I have. I have indeed, and I've done them for 7 years now, and I've just gone to video. But, I've always said, to be honest with you, Scott, that audio is the theater of the mind. And you can listen to a podcast mowing the lawns, having a bubble bath with a nice glass of red and a C's Candy. Or you can walk the dog.
That's always been my theory.
A lot of things with those things in your ears, driving, listening to a podcast. But if you start watching, normally you got to view it. So, there's for and against, don't you think?
Definitely, and that's why I fought the video podcast concept for the last several years. I talked to a lot of podcasters, and I always had the same argument as you. With an audio podcast, people can listen doing anything and enjoy their
Right.
life.
Right.
When you, soon as you put it on video, just like everything else, they got that freaking screen in their face.
Yeah.
But
And
it is
the other
part of
thing
it.
is we drop out occasionally too, like you just did, or we
Yep.
freeze a fraction, I must have a talk to
And
Stream out
video.
about this.
Yeah, it is tough.
The thing, Scott, is you can have podcasts with audio and video. And I do all my shows now with both. So they both get transported and dispersed to various podcast platforms for distribution. So, you can have your pick. Now, let's get on with you. Come on. You've opened up over 10 companies in your life. I mean, you still look young, including small construction, comedy clubs to restaurants, art galleries. Most unique, I love this one, a submarine and a beach shack in Hawaii. And, how did that go?
There were huge financial losses, but they were so much fun. Here's the theory to my entrepreneurial life. I always had a good time. So whether it was a construction company, the chain of comedy clubs for over 20 years, or the submarine, which I lost my ass on, was still fun. And if you're not enjoying life, what's the point, right?
Right. Make it, spend it, lose it, whatever. At least you're living, right?
Yeah.
A long time dead, as they say. Who was the most famous act to work with for you, do you think?
Well, I was, as you mentioned, and name dropped a few. I was very lucky back in the 80s to work with some of the biggest names. However, when I was working with them, they were still working their way up. Jerry Seinfeld, Bob Saget, Dave Coulier, Dana Carvey, Paula Poundstone, Jay Leno, all these people worked my stages and helped build their careers. But I'd have to say the most famous in 1980, Mark, this is going back a ways. I had just opened my club, and Bob Saget, who was a very good friend of mine, said, "Hey, I got to bring this guy up. He's a television actor, and he needs to do stand-up comedy on this brand new sitcom that was starting. Can I bring him to the club?" And I said, "Sure." And he brought him up, and the guy worked for a whole week. I didn't have to pay him. I taught him how to use the mic and the stage and where to look and the lights and all that. And Bob Saget wrote material for him. And he practiced that set every night for the week at my club, went back down to LA, did it on the sitcom. And then a week later, it was on TV. And we got a chance to see all the work we did with him on TV. And that was really felt good. But what was exciting was the TV show was called Bosom Buddies. And it was the very first showcase of a young actor, Tom Hanks.
Right. So he too was a comedian.
No, he was just an actor, and we were teaching him for that sitcom.
Now, okay.
Movie.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite actors, I got to admit. But which club was this? Where were we talking?
It was called
what geography?
Laughs Unlimited, all comedy showroom. I had 3 of them. 2 in Sacramento and 1 in Stockton, California, all in Northern California.
Okay, on the West Coast, all right.
Yeah, and when I opened in 1980, my very first opening act, he made $100 for the week, was Gary Shandling, who coincidentally had just come out. I was his first road gig out of Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, there you go.
That's his hometown.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Shandling, for those that want to go to the Googler, had the Larry Sanders show. He had the Gary Shandling show, did 100 movies. Very talented guy.
Yeah, very popular. I just watched oh my God, what was it called? It was a trip across America with his buddy. And his buddy came out.
Oh.
Okay, and it was marvelous. It was well produced, well done, very gutsy. I liked it very much. But Tucson, huh? How about that? The backyard of Hollywood. We've got some real talent here, I tell you. We're making movies, small stuff, but we're trying to do some feature films as well. We got a lot of cinematographers, writers, directors, producers. That's all fun.
Tucson's a hotbed for Hollywood and golf. So you're in the right place.
The problem, my friend, with our film industry, I'm going to be very honest with you. They're all the budgets and the investors want us to make films in Utah and New Mexico. I'll give you a guess why.
Right? It's not
tax write-offs. Tax write-offs. If you invest, right?
Right.
Everybody's after it's America. Come on, greed or
What,
save
capitalism?
or sense or how about capitalism, whatever. The deal is here we are battling in Arizona. You've got to raise 200 grand before they'll even look at you. And then you can only do X amount of percent. A lot of little laws on the damn thing. It's just not right, considering this was John Wayne's home, for God's sake. How dare they,
Yeah. Well,
Listen, we talk about comedians, we talk about all the famous stand-up comedies. Was only about a couple of months ago. I had front row seat at our famous Fox Theater here. And guess who was on? Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, great
So
show.
he's still touring.
Well, you know what's interesting?
Even after the success of that show, I guess why not? Even though they only did a few episodes, didn't they? But here he is touring, and I'm right there with him on the front row. I was a little surprised. He kept going back to his chair, to his cards, to go off into the next segment or, whatever. But perhaps that's the way comedians do it. I don't know. But stand-up, it seems to be very hard,
You brought up a really terrific idea, and that is that stand-up comedy is one of those creative art forms when you're actually have to connect with an audience. It's unlike movies where you're doing it over and over and over and it ends up on the big screen, or television where they can do 2 or 3 takes and there's maybe 20 people in the audience. Stand-up comedy is right there. The best part of stand-up comedy is you have an audience right in front of you. You have to engage them, you have to entertain them, and you have to be able to relate to them. And it's such a good feeling when you accomplish that there's 2 multi-millionaire television stars, Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno, even though they're retired from TV, are back out on the road. Why? Because they love stand-up comedy.
They miss their interaction. They miss that energy, right?
Right. Connecting
you can't
with the
get
audience.
that. Yeah, those people who are told to clap in a studio, in a Johnny Carson show or whatever, you can only do so much with the open jokes, I guess. Compared to live, I've been seriously thinking of looking at it, buddy, to maybe try and do some improv or some comedy, because it seems to me that if you've ever had a goal or a dream of hosting a show in America, you've got to be a comedian.
Well, I don't know if that is so much true, but I do recommend to everybody, and you especially, Mark Bishop, because of all your experience, should get on stage and try 3 minutes is a long time on stage. Try a 3-minute, 5-minute set and just get that experience, that connection with an audience, because there's nothing like it. And I tell everybody that even if you don't plan to be a comic someday or think you're going to make a living from it, just try it. Just get on stage. It's kind of like, it's similar to karaoke, only more judgment.
I can feel it, man. I've done a little of acting, and I've done on stage and film, and there's a big difference. I like being on stage too, so I understand that reaction. The key is you've got to be unique. I think you've got to have. When I watch these comedians, I mean, that Scottish guy is amazing. Gets away with so much swearing, but he does.
Oh, right.
But he's brilliant. I've got to find a writer that would suit me. After all, I am Australian. They got to understand me. but the point is, I've got to find a writer that could write for me and around me. If you're going to be funny, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a pretty funny guy, and you have the
experience
under your belt of the business. Knowing the business. I wouldn't say that the hardest part of being a comic is the writing. I won't say it's the easiest either, but the hardest part for the average person, Mark, is just getting up on stage in front of people. And people like you and I can do that. We have the type A personality. We have the voice. We have the looks that we can get up in front of a crowd and feel intimidated. Well, whether you're young or old, it's still that stage fright that keeps most people out of it. And that's why I recommend everybody just at least give it a shot. But you, with all your experience, I think would be a natural. And I wouldn't worry about the writing. Just go up and talk about your life. You've had such interesting guests. You just had Valerie on there talking.
Someone said that. It should do that. Yeah,
playing games for stress release. I mean, just go up and talk about your box of chocolate guest.
Speaking of funny stories from the world of comedy, right? I want to ask you about the more famous, like Harvey, Robin Williams, God rest his soul, and even Tom Hanks. Can you remember any funny stories from just those?
Oh, well, there's too many to share in one
Okay,
sitting.
give me one short one.
But we're talking about coming out of Tucson, Arizona. The very funny Gary Shandling. If you get a chance, go and Google him. You know exactly who I'm talking about. He's
I do.
in
I do.
movies, lots of.
I'll try and get him for an interview, maybe. Maybe he'd be kind enough to give me one because he's from Tucson.
Well,
Or
sadly, he
Tucson. I mean,
passed away. He has passed away many years ago.
I didn't realize that. See
Yeah.
how dumb am I, right? I'm a one-man army. I got no research or anything.
He's
I don't
a
get
funny,
time, you know.
but he's a
God,
funny
another
guy.
one, God rest his soul. Yeah, he was brilliant. Thank you, Gary, for all the love and warmth and happiness you gave me.
The Larry
Thank you.
Sanders Show was amazing. But here's what he did back when he was a stand-up comic that nobody else in the history of my shows ever did. It was about a Wednesday night. There's maybe 12 people in the audience. And of course, in show business, the show goes on no matter what. And Gary was the headliner, and he's up doing his act. And he's very, very funny. And he's about halfway through his act, Mark, and one of the guys gets up to go to the restroom. Well, Gary Shandling stops and goes, "That's way too high a percentage of the audience. Come with me." And he took the other 11 people, men and women, it was all couples, into the men's room. And the guy's at the urinal doing his business. Gary goes in and stands right behind him, turns around. All 11 people pack into the men's room. And then Gary went on with his set like nothing had happened. It was so funny. And the guy was trying to do his business. And it was just hilarious. But I do want to make sure the audience knows, yes, we did make sure he washed his hands after.
Very important. Well, I can remember coming, my wife, God love her, Nancy, Fancy Nancy, I call her, originally from Long Island, New York, but moved here when she was 12 with the family because her mom was pretty sore with arthritis, severe arthritis, and lupus at the time. God rest her soul, too. And they came over because beautiful weather here. And a lot of people come, you know, as you know, the clinic and so on to Arizona for health reasons. Anyway, on the plane coming over, I was immigrating, you know, a legal immigrant, all right? And we were coming over, and she said, "Now, look, honey, I need you to practice, you know, when you get your cowboy hat on and you're walking." Whoa, what do you mean when I get my cowboy hat on? She said, "Well, everybody wears cowboy hats in Tucson." I said, "You're serious?" "Bloody oath, I'm serious." She said, "You got to have a..." "All right, but here's what you got to do. It's not just whacking a hat on. It's what you do with it." "Oh, all right." So put the hat on, and she happened to have one and brought it out of a bag. You know, we're on the plane, mind you. Understand? You know, I'm a total idiot here. Put the hat on. She says, "Now I need you to do this." "I'll do, ma'am." No. The fingers have to be like, tip the hat down. "I'll do, ma'am." "I'll do, ma'am." And I'm doing this, "How do, ma'am?" You know, everybody's laughing at me. I said, we get over that one, and then she pulls a big one on me. Because I come from a country where, you know, we don't have guns, except when you go hunting. And even then, they're going to test you like you're a God knows what before you get the license. So here's the deal. Now, when we go out to a restaurant and so on, and you got to hang your guns up. "Whoa, what do you mean? Hang my guns up? I hate guns. What are you talking about?" "Oh, no. You wear guns, just like you see in the movies." "You're kidding me." "Pulling the leg, huh? God save the Queen." "Yeah, I know." No. You got to do it. You got to do it. You hang it up in the hat. When we go in, you know where you hang your fur coats or your other coats in the winter nights. Here, you hang your guns. Stone the crows. I thought, no way known do I want. What have I got myself into? You know.
Oh man, that is. So
And the funny thing about it is, the only gun, 12 years now on this trip, and all up about 20 years in the States, but on this trip, 12 years in Tucson, guess what? I've only ever seen one gun. And it was on a gentleman on a bike. I noticed I called him a gentleman on the bike. And it was in a holster at a stop sign. And I sort of pulled up and I had a look. Oh, shit, a gun, you know. You guys grow up, you're used to it. It's part of the amendment. I mean, I just don't understand. It's another story. We could do a debate on that. You know, I was so anti-guns. But now, after living here and understanding a lot of things, I really do understand about wanting to protect your family and break-ins and a house and so many things that happen. You're very hard to compete with a baseball bat, and they've got the gun.
Exactly.
But you know, I don't like road rage. It's too easy to go to the glove box or your hip. There's a lot of things. See what I mean? So you
No, no,
learn.
exactly,
You
but it was still a
absolutely
great
learn.
prank to play on you. So for your wife, we want to hear a little, "Yay, good job." All right, that's
Hey,
enough of that.
sweetheart. There
By
you
the
go.
way, Arizona's one place, but you want to see guns on the hips of young men, go to Texas. That's where they really do it.
Oh,
And
that's where everything's big in Texas, right?
howdy, ma'am.
How do, ma'am? Hey, how do you recommend someone interested in starting a business? What's your biggest advice you could give them?
Well, I've started over a dozen companies, Mark, and I found a couple things really important. One, go into something that you have some interest in or you feel like is going to be satisfying to you, because going in and doing something you're not going to enjoy is not going to succeed. The other thing is you have to do your research. And a lot of people don't realize this. Before I opened a construction company or even a comedy club or even bought a submarine, I talked to people in the industry
Mm-hmm.
and found out, hey, what do you do right? What did you do wrong? And entrepreneurs love to share their stories. So if you go to the owner of, let's say in the construction business, you go to the owner of a small construction company or even a large one and go, hey, where do you get your products? How much do you charge? What did you pay for this? And
Mm-hmm.
how did you get started? People will share that information usually pretty
Right, right,
easily,
right.
because you're not a threat. You're not even in business yet.
So what was your construction? What did you do? Houses,
Oh, no, I was
complexes, what?
17. I
Oh.
I painted lines in parking lots and fixed and repaired parking lots, right? It was the asphalt
Good
business.
experience. Ah,
I was
okay.
17 years old. I got a couple high school buddies and we opened a small business, and we painted all the McDonald's in Northern California, all the Safeway stores, and did an airport. But it was fun because I was with two high school buddies.
Right.
We didn't know what we were doing, so I went and talked to the owners of other striping companies, and they told me everything: where to buy the paint, what did you charge, you
Cool.
know and then I was a salesman and they were the grunts, and we went out and made a company out of it. And after a couple of years I sold out. But one of my partners from age 17, his family still owns the company today.
How
He
about that?
raised his whole family, made a great living off of it. And then when he retired, his sons took it over.
You want to brand it?
Oh, it's called A&A Restripe. It was not a very fancy thing. Remember phone books, Mark?
Yes, I do.
Well,
I do indeed,
most
my
of us are
friend.
older. Most of the listeners may not remember what a phone book is, but this was back in the 70s. Everything that you could market and advertise was in a phone book. There was no internet. So
Uh-huh.
A&A Restripe, A&A was first in the phone book.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, same in Australia.
So you
Same
got
in
to
Australia.
use
They were
old.
great to sit on, with low chairs in an office or something. Or if you wanted to bash a buffet over the head, you come
There
up with
you
your
go.
phone book.
That was one hell of a
Interesting.
big spider, damn it.
Wasn't it ever? So why were you so diverse in the types of businesses? Did you just fall into them? Did they present themselves to you or what?
Yeah, it was really just kind of the luck of the draw. The construction company, I was actually at a young age, I was working as a night maintenance at a cheap ass motel, and I was hiding from the boss in the bar, and I overheard two guys talking about striping parking lots on the weekends. And I go, I'm 17, I can make a living off this. Then when I got into comedy, I was selling life insurance of all things. I was in LA on vacation, and I went to a satellite version of the Comedy Store
Right.
right near UCLA in a little town called Westwood. And I loved it so much so that on the drive back, in my mind, I figured out what I needed to do. And when I got back, I quit my job. I went bankrupt, so I had no debt. And then I went back to LA into San Francisco, and I did
I
my
went bankrupt,
research.
so we got
Mark,
no debt. Yeah,
here's
right.
the yeah, that's the important part, is that I did the research. I went and talked to club owners. I talked to waitresses. I talked to
Mm-hmm.
the comics. I learned as much about the business as I could. And
Mm-hmm.
then I wheeled and dealed my way into a location and opened a comedy club in August of 1980. And when I did, Mark, for those people that are young and may not understand, there was only 12. I was the 12th full-time comedy club in the entire United States at that time.
And
Stand-up
this is in the West
comedy.
Coast, of course, right?
Sorry?
This is on the West Coast, this was.
Yeah, but that was still only the 12th club in the whole country at the time. Stand-up comedy was not an acceptable
Well, I was
form
going
of
to say, as
entertainment.
a business, you've got to make a profit after expenses. So you've got to open the club, you've got to market the thing. How do you get guests? Who did you go for? Were they knowns, unknowns, B, C players? What?
Well, I did
How
what's
do you
called,
drag names in when you're
yeah.
just starting?
Well, I was lucky. Yeah, I was what was called an A room. You know the difference in show business, and it was the step right before TV and in big stages, but it wasn't like an open showcase club. It was a true entertainment theater. But when all those trips to LA and San Francisco, I met people like Bob Saget. And actually, I met Dave Coulier, who introduced me to Bob Saget, who introduced me to Gary Shandling, who introduced me to George Wallace, who introduced me to Jerry Seinfeld. So once you got in the business, and because I was a club owner and I
Right.
was paying these people and they needed work, they needed stage time, and they needed money to pay their bills, they started coming to me. But in the beginning, I was going to them. Right. There
Right,
was a
right.
transition after
Mhm.
several months of opening the club and proving that I could bring in an audience and pay them to do their work.
Well, they had jobs, of course. They were just starting out, weren't they? Mostly.
Yeah,
So they'd be
their
working daytime
jobs
jobs.
were their jobs were amateur comics and get as much stage time, get as much money as they could.
Right,
Most
right.
of them lived out of their car and were driving around doing gigs.
Yeah, it's a credit. It takes guts to do all that. When I started as a young jock in radio, my media career, um, thank God I didn't have to sleep in a car, but pretty close to it with caravans with no air or heat,
Right.
as poor as you could get because the money was poor, of course. But, you look at the bands, how they had to travel in the early days when they were unknown.
Right.
And all of these guys that you went to and gave them an opportunity to work and build their careers and get that experience and so on. They must have all had their dreams of wanting to make it, of wanting to be big.
Yeah, there was one young lady who came to my club as a feature act. And for those not in show business, there was an opening act, a feature act, and a headliner. The feature act usually did 20 to 30 minutes, and they weren't quite good enough to be a headliner, bring in a crowd, and do an hour of comedy.
Right.
But this young lady was very talented. She worked my club. We helped her a bit, and she ended up having some fame and success. Her name was Ellen DeGeneres.
Gets a show later on, half a luck, and you good on her, yeah, good on her. Just goes to show you when you go way, way back. Well, for
Yeah,
me
you
as a
just, I
kid,
mean,
I worked with a Little River Band and Johnny Farnham. You haven't heard of him. Cliff Richard, you haven't heard of him either. Big in Europe and America and Australia. I don't know why he never took off in the States. We've had a lot of good Australians, actors and actresses and bands and you got to come here. We're a small island continent, you got more in Texas in population than we have in the whole country. So
but it
you
goes
only
the
go
other
so
way,
far.
too. I don't know if you know the name Mark, but a young guy that used to work for me a lot, a comic ventriloquist who had some success at clubs around this country, but never got any fame. His name's David Strassman, and he ended up going to Australia and was such a huge hit that he just finished his final tour, but he's toured
Uh-huh.
all the big cities, which there's not a whole ton, but he
Right.
made his whole career and is quite wealthy and famous
Good on him. What
all
era
in
was that? What,
Australia.
what, the name is sort of rings a bell, but, what am I talking, the 70s, 80s?
No, he just finished his last tour.
Oh,
He's
well, I've been
been
over here
he's
too long. I don't even see Australia on the news. You don't know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's been famous for probably the last 15, 20 years in Aussie land.
Right. Good on him. So he went over there to make it.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of basketballers and other people. We've had a couple of our footballers, real football, Aussie rules football, where you kick it. Not this throwing jazz, and it's not rugby either. It's called Aussie rules football. And it's big in America too, with a lot of private clubs, God love them. But we've had a couple of club professionals come over and punt in the gridiron teams because we know how to torpedo. The ball is smaller, but we know how to torpedo it down the other end of the field,
Hey,
Or
kickers
it's really
are
about
explosive.
hanging high. It's
Right.
really about up there. Yeah.
Yeah, the NFL is big on their kickers, and although this year it's been rough on the kickers.
Oh, I love it. I
I don't know
love
if you
watching it,
watch
mate.
the
I
game.
just get tired of, all the times you can stop and have a barbecue in between the action. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
so slow. What are the secrets to being a successful entrepreneur? That's a boring question.
Well,
Everybody gets
no,
that one.
like I said, you got to have a little bit of passion, and you got to have a good work ethic. You have to do your research. But once you get open, everybody listening, you got to understand it's going to be tough. Everything you have to earn and you have to work for means that in the beginning, you may not make enough money to get started, or you may take a while to
Right.
really take hold and build up. Like they say, and Mark, you know this, you're not a successful business if you haven't been open 5 years.
That's right.
And
That's right.
3 years was always my mark, because
Right.
I knew if I made it 3, I'd make it 5. But the
Right.
other thing, and a lot of people don't realize this, that a good entrepreneur starts a company, builds it up, and sells it. It's good to have an exit strategy.
Well, buddy, I've been at it 7 and I'm still broke. So I've passed the 5, but I'm wondering when something happens. No, I got faith. I got confidence. I've still got a few years left to finish the bucket list, as they say. The one thing I have learned though, Scott, is you never give up. You never
Right.
give up. No
It's
matter
going
what
to be
happens
tough
to you,
times. You're
against
not
all
a
odds, you never give up.
Mark, you know this. You're not a successful entrepreneur if you haven't been bankrupt and you haven't been sued. So there's always tough
Oh,
times.
well, there's no hope for me then, man, because those two haven't happened. But
Oh, I'm
I'll
like
get there.
President
The thing
Trump.
is, I would love to build a successful company, but even today with AI, I'm not technical. The reality is, you need people working with you, and if you can't afford to pay anybody, you got to go to virtual assistants over in Bangladesh or somewhere or other. Then you got a language problem you got to get around, and I mean,
Yeah,
it's a challenge. It really
things
is a
are
challenge.
yeah, things are different today, but it is true
Yeah.
that the key to many successful businesses are having the right people around you to support you. But as you mentioned, as a solo entrepreneur yourself, it does start with you. You have to have the vision, you have to have the creative.
The hotspur. You got to be
Yeah,
able to do it. Yep,
and
all dead.
it is all about taking risk. I mean, as I mentioned, I've started over a dozen companies, but a couple of them failed in a fabulous way, like the submarine. I lost lots of money. I had a lot of fun.
I gotta ask you more on that. I'm past my 30 minutes now. I started out at 20, but people said to me, look, we really enjoy the topics and stuff. Go longer. Then you get the pros telling you, hey, they're going to be bored with you. They'll switch off in 20 minutes. You know what? C'est la vie. I'm a great believer of what is to be is to be. And if you're enjoying the show and you don't mind going 30 or 35 minutes, fabulous. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And do the thing, ring the bell or whatever you got to do.
You got to
As they
like it.
say.
You want to like it. You want to share it, and you want to review it.
Like it, share it, and review it.
There you
Like
go.
it, share it, and review it. If you do that, it'd be wonderful. Because I got to get a national sponsor, and the advertising agencies are cruel. They say, get 200,000 and we'll talk to you. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, well,
they're
they're
I'll
a
say
little
200,000 what?
Yeah, well, that's why
Okay,
there's
Scott.
only 5 or 6. Well, if you're famous to start with, I think you can make some money pretty easy, get those numbers. But
Mate, I'm
start
so jealous of
scratch.
Joe Rogan. I'm so jealous of that guy.
Yeah,
I mean, to sit there and smoke cigars and dope and whiskey and God knows what else. The guy, he was another comedian first, was he not? And he hosted a television show or something. Is that right?
he's got some show
I
business
think he did.
experience.
He was
It
big
wasn't
anyway. But
Yeah, it wasn't a success until he started the podcast that he's doing.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, good on him because see, to be paid 18 million, as they say, by Spotify to go there, right, with a podcast gives us all a chance, except now there's 4 million podcasters. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry's getting into it. But unless you're a Joe Rogan or an NPR and you don't have the money or the budgets, you're back where you were on traditional media. Everybody wants numbers, right? Same as radio, television. Mind you, the cable, they're all moving into the same buildings here. But I think what is going to come, direct TV with this ISP business, direct in, it's starting to take off. But our wonderful world of podcasting, it's not radio, it's not television. It is unique. It can be. I've heard some incredible stuff said on air that you could never do.
Right. Hey,
Get away with on
Mark,
radio.
I'll share something with you that happens in podcasting that doesn't happen in any other medium. And I've been podcasting, as I said, for 6 years. I've got 4 different podcasts. My main podcast, stand-up comedy host and MC, just crested 250,000 downloads, but that took 5 years.
Wow.
But what's really exciting is I just found out this morning, I am number 1 in Albania.
You are number 1 in Albania?
The number 1 comedy podcast in Albania is my podcast.
And what's that called?
The stand-up comedy, your host and MC.
Oh,
Number 1 in Albania. But
hey, let's celebrate, man. Let's, you should go over there, bro. You should go over there and sign books, and thousands of people out in the,
well, my point is that it's something you could do out of your own house, your own studio, and you can reach the world.
Yeah, you could.
That's the same idea for my new video podcast, which is called Tag Team Talent Podcast.
What a shame. I'm losing you every now and again. This never used to happen on my show. This must be StreamYard and their bit rates, things that they're doing at the moment. It's not good. It's not good. I'm sorry, man. We've lost a little bit of here and there, but time I edit and do everything, I'll do the best I can to keep it. But number 1 in Albania. Hear that? Wow.
Number 1 in Albania. But if you get a chance, the new video podcast is tagteamtalentpodcast.com. But right now you can go to tagteamtalentsearch.com.
Right.
Tagteamtalentsearch.com, because we're looking for variety artists. We want people to send us 1 to 3 minute videos of them doing ventriloquism, impressions,
interesting,
magic,
it's like a show. It's a fundraising show. We used to host back in television in Australia when you're fundraising for a major cause once a year. A telethon type thing where all these acts are. But see, getting guests, I mean, it's you mightn't believe it, but as a one-man show, it's very difficult for me to find guests too. It's time, it's effort to find people that, are interesting with stories to tell and a bit to do. And that's the beauty. When you look at a Rogan, he's got, I call him an alien because the guy's too brilliant to be a normal human. SpaceX and Tesla. Elon, right? And look where he's gone now. But look at all the names and brands that Rogan gets on. Yeah, because he's big and he's got money.
Their guests, which is crazy.
Unbelievable. Good luck to him. Yeah. So I like to help people, and I have another one called Nothing Like a Good Book. I interview authors, unknowns, and they're getting ahead. I got a thrill the other day. I got a call from one, and his book's done so well. His series have done so well, and his screenplays have won 450 awards around the world.
Wow.
That Hollywood picked him up. They're very keen, wanting to do it, this and that. And good on him, all for nothing, I mean, that's the part of America I still believe in, but, that's...
Well, Mark...
As a kid in Australia, you want to get to the States to make it. You got to make it. You got to go to America.
Well, Mark, it's so funny that you brought that up. I've offered 3 books, and one of them's on sale now and makes a great holiday gift. It's called 20 Questions Answered About Being a Stand-Up Comic. It's available on Amazon. 20 questions answered about being a stand-up comic, and it'll teach you all about how to be a stand-up comic.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll buy the thing. How much is it?
I don't know. It's like $12.
Oh, I don't know. I thought they were cheaper than that.
You know what?
You're mad? No, I'm not. Yeah, I know. 12. But what's it called again? 20 outstanding.
20 questions answered.
Hang on. You blocked out. Say again.
20 questions answered about being a stand-up comic. Sorry, it's kind of 20. A long title.
So, yeah, it is, isn't it? 20, like your website. 20 questions answered, potato. 20 questions answered to be a good comic.
Yeah, about being on how to be a stand-up comic.
On how to be a stand-up comic. Stone the crows, it's long. How to be a stand-up comic. All right, my friend. Good luck with that. Seriously, I will go and buy that for Christmas. Because
I'll send you a copy.
Oh, very good. Not online, not a thingamajig, a real one that lives at the door.
A real book.
Yeah, I still like to flick through it and feel it. You know what I mean? Smell the print.
But anyway, the point Mark is making is for anybody listening, if you have a dream, if you have something that you're passionate about, do your research, learn about it, and then take that risk and open a business. And it doesn't have to be something crazy like a submarine or a podcast or a comedy club. It could be a hardware store. It could be a restaurant. It could be a cafe. It could be a customer service business. Whatever it is, if you do the research, you work on it, take that leap of faith in yourself. So you have to have a positive mental attitude and open a business, because being self-employed is the way to make it in America.
Yeah, it is. It's the hardest way, but you're the salt of the earth. And the country, I mean, the economy's run on small business. Let's face it, the corporations, all their money's overseas. They get all the tax breaks, don't they? And some of them don't even pay tax, which that's a sore point with me when you got so many homeless in America and living. Look, I don't want to go there. The thing is, it's been a pleasure.
Deep road here.
An absolute pleasure, me. I wish you well with your new podcast. That seems like a lot of fun. Okay. And this book of all, I hope it sells 1 million for you. We might even have an interview with that on Nothing Like a Good Book.
That would be fun.
I've got 80,000 downloads now on the Mark Bishop Show, but I've got a long way to go to 200. But at the end of the day, it's just starting to kick off with Nothing Like a Good Book. People like who promote authors and what have you are starting to hear about the show. They're contacting me for interviews with their authors. And
That's
of course,
great.
it's the getting it out there afterwards,
Right.
And it's a bit of work to prepare and so on. But
it's been my honor to be on the Mark Bishop Show.
But can I do something? That one won't work. Hang on.
It's scary.
Oh, I used to love that one on Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Remember when that you used to do that? That was fun.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. There's one. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Scott Edwards.
Well,
Chicken
I know
Man
your
return.
audience is engaged. They listen to Valerie talking about gaming and Jason talking about his photo books and Angela and her sex tapes.
Yeah, Jason's marvelous. An Aussie that's made it big time with National Geographic and so on.
Right. You're getting some great, unique guest as you're on your podcast, and that's what
I'd love to. Yeah, and if you're talking to anybody, buddy, I don't ask for any dough, so it costs me to do the thing, like all of us. I have no sponsor on it all, so I don't mind if they give value and quality to the show, and it entertains people, and it just makes their day a little brighter. Then I'm happy. So if you're talking to anybody that you feel should be a good guest, I'd appreciate you having them contact me.
We'll do that. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like it, share it, and if you get a chance, review it.
Like it, share it, and review it. Thanks, Scott. Absolute pleasure speaking with you. And good luck with everything, okay?
Thank you, sir.
What a terrific guy. Thanks for being here today, or whatever you caught this particular show on YouTube or somewhere else. But as he says, review and all of that. So anyway, we've gone a long time and it's been fun. And I've enjoyed your company. And remember, never give up.